All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Hello and welcome to this Council on International Higher Education webinar on lived experiences in an era of unprecedented uncertainty and challenges, new voices from intersectional identities. My name is Angela Hoffman-Cooper and I use she and her pronouns, and I'm the Director of Conference and Events with ASHE, that's the Association for the Study of Higher Education. And it's my pleasure to welcome you here. I want to thank you each for taking time out of your day to be here and learn from our editors and panel of authors. Today's webinar has closed captioning enabled using Zoom AI. You can select the CC closed captioning icon on the bottom of your screen for the captions to display. And this might be tucked under the More menu on your Zoom menu. So you might need to check under there. And that will be again on the menu at the bottom of your Zoom screen or window. This webinar is also being recorded and will be posted to YouTube and made available to folks following the webinar. And if you're joining us after the event and are viewing the recording on YouTube, you can select the CC icon on YouTube for the captioning there. I would like to start with acknowledging the land that I'm joining you in virtual community from today. I'm joining you today from the Anishinaabe homelands and ceded territory established by the Treaty of 1842. The Chequamegon Bay region is home to the Bad River and Red Cliff tribes located adjacent to Lake Superior, otherwise known as Gitchigami, in what is today known as northern Wisconsin. I acknowledge and respect the many Indigenous people, past and present, connected to this land, and understand that my actions in this space and community have an impact on the people, land, and waters of this area. I invite each of us to reflect on the history and enduring presence of the land and people in the respective areas that we're joining from today. I'd also like to share my enthusiasm for this webinar today. This webinar is brought to you by the ASHE Council on International Higher Education, otherwise known as CIHE. Today, the Journal of International Student Special Issue editors, Charles Mathies and Katie Koo, will be in conversation with authors of the journal's special issue. We will be using the Zoom webinar platform for today's discussion, and you are welcome to engage throughout the session by entering questions into the Q&A box on your Zoom window. And also, ASHE staff will be here behind the scenes, that'll be me, to assist you should you have any questions or need any support with your experience during the webinar. You're welcome to send me a private chat here in Zoom or send me an email, and I'll drop that email into the chat so you have it available to you. We also have our virtual events code of conduct, and ASHE is committed to providing a safe, productive, and welcoming environment for all event participants. And I will include a link to our code of conduct in the chat so you can be familiar with that as well. With that, I am certainly excited for today's discussion, as I imagine you all are, with our esteemed moderators and the panel of authors. And I want to thank you again for making time to join us. With that, I will turn it over to Dr. Katie Koo to take us forward today. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Good afternoon and good morning, everyone. Happy Friday and happy end of the semester season. Thank you for taking the time to come and join the conversation on international students' lived experiences, the studies published by Journal of International Students Special Issue. My name is Katie, and I am an assistant professor at the University of Georgia, the original homeland of Cherokee and Yuki nations. I use she, her, and hers as my pronouns. I am serving ASHE Council on International Higher Education, CIHE, as a member at large. For the Journal of International Students, I am serving as an associate editor. And for this special issue that we are talking about today, I served as a guest editor along with my wonderful colleague, Dr. Charlie Mathies. So before we talk about articles from the Journal of International Students, let me give you a brief introduction about ASHE and CIHE for those who are not quite familiar with these communities. So ASHE is the Association for the Study of Higher Education. This is a scholarly society with over 2,000 members dedicated to higher education as a field of study. CIHE is one of the councils under ASHE community for providing a space for research and practice on competitive and international perspectives in the field of higher education. And today's webinar is one of the CIHE's programs to provide a scholarly and intellectual conversation on the topic of international higher education. With that, This is today's agenda. If you turn to the next page. Yeah, thank you. So firstly, we'll talk about Journal of International Students and the special issue. Then authors of these special issue articles will talk about their studies. And next page, the editors and authors of the Journal of International Students special issue are joining us from around the world. So I'm very thankful for your time and work for today. So let me briefly introduce their names and institutions. So Dr. Charlie Mathies from Old Dominion University, Dr. Dewey Andriani at the University of New England, Australia, Dr. Noor Pazil at the University Saint Malaysia, Kyung-Wook Kang at the University of Georgia, Seyon Yoon at Ball State University, and Sung-Young Liu at American University. I can pronounce these Korean names correctly as Korean is my first language. What a privilege that I have. Okay, so each speaker will introduce themselves with more details at their presentation in a few minutes. So without further ado, I will turn it over to my wonderful colleague, Dr. Charlie Mathies, who will talk about the journal and the special issue. Charlie?
Hi, Katie. Thank you. So it's my pleasure to introduce the journal here and the special issue. Those of you who are not familiar with the Journal of International Students, it's a quarterly peer-reviewed publication. It is covers a wide spread geographically as well as topically focused on international students in secondary and tertiary education. I serve as one of the associate editors for the journal, and with Katie as one of the editors for the special issue. And this is the special issue here. We're very proud of not only the articles in it, but also Katie and I had a chance to work on the cover art, and we thought this cover art was actually pretty emblematic of the lived experiences of international students as they are coming to kind of an intersection of both their identities, their experiences, their lives. And we thought this was really a nice way to visualize this. Our interest in this topic in the special issue began with a conversation around a lot of direct representation of international students' voices in the literature. We saw a lot of the international students' voices being put into the literature via surveys, via interviews, focus groups, but there wasn't a lot of direct international student voice in the literature and the research. And we really wanted to represent that. And so we developed a proposal for the special issue, and we designed the focus methodologically on ethnographic studies. So we really wanted it to be really focused in that way. We had 88 submissions for articles from 6 different continents, everywhere but Antarctica. And we were really excited about that, but it also made our process really extremely difficult because there was such excellent work and so widespread coverage, both topically as well as geographically. In the end, we selected 11 articles, 3 of which will be discussed here today. And we are so proud of the authors and the work that they put forth, sharing their stories, sharing their experiences, the good, the bad, and the not so good. And reading it as an editor, it was moving in a lot of ways for me, and reaffirmed my passion and my interest in advocating for international students, advocating to improve their experiences and their lives. So with that, I will turn this over here. Oh, yes, sorry. These are the different chapters here. As you can see, we have an introductory article by Katie and I, and Katie will be talking about that shortly here. And these are some of the other articles that are in this. And then these are the last half here. And these are all ethnographic studies, and really do a good job illuminating the international students' voice in their experience. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Katie to talk about our opening chapter and sort of our larger reflective thoughts. So Katie.
Thank you so much for a great introduction of the special issue, Dr. Mathies. So this chapter, this article is an introductory article of the special issue that me and Dr. Mathies wrote together. So basically, we talk about the uniqueness of the special issue in terms of the topic on diverse lived experiences among international students from all over the country. So we were very proud that these articles are really representing a different countries, not just focusing on the US context, but from around different countries. And we also try to emphasize how this specific methodological approach, autoethnography, can provide rich and honest stories and conversations about international students' lived experiences. So by highlighting how authors were really talking about their vivid stories with some different approaches, we were really proud that we were able to capture all those very individual, very honest, very specific lived experiences from the authors. Also, we talk about how our voices are reflecting our unique experiences of coming to the new countries and living where we lived as international students by unfolding the stories and multiple identities that are intersecting while students still experience different type of cultural pieces in the host countries. So for international students, they are not just international students, they are students who live in a foreign country as international student, but at the same time, there are also all different kinds of identities, such as gender, race, religiosity, language, social status, sexual orientation, and gender identity, and plus many more. So all these intersecting identities play importantly for international students, and we discussed how uniqueness of international students' experiences are intersected by their unique identities in this piece. Like I said, in this article, we talk about coming and living. I know this sounds very philosophical. For a living piece of the article, we talk about the meaning of them coming to the host countries to study abroad. So for international students, there are a lot of different motivations and purposes for them to leave their home country and coming to the host country to pursue degrees in a foreign country. So we talk about their unique motivations and purpose for them to come to their host country, and we also talk about their very unique identity shifting. So when they are in their home country, they are in the privileged group, and they are in the society of majorities. But once they come to the host country, their privilege status is going down because they have a different minoritized status and identities in the host country, in a new culture, in a foreign country. And also we talk about the meaning of coming, and meaning of coming means also they left their home country. So it's another story of living from their home country, but it's also coming to the new country. So the complexity of coming story was shared in our article. And also last piece of the coming part is the hidden story. So we also talked about unique challenges that international students had in the story of coming in terms of acculturation, language barriers, adjustment, visa issues, etc., etc. So you can also relate to that many more. In terms of the living story, so after living some years in the host country, international student, they decide whether they want to stay or whether they want to live. So my own story, I never had a living story because I ended up staying here for past many years as a former international student and now currently international faculty member. But we were talking about what make them live. What is their decision-making process? Were they living because they wanted to live, or were they forced to leave the country because of their visa status, because they couldn't get a job here, etc. So the hidden stories and hidden meaning of the living was also shared. And we also talk about a very complexity of reflections and emotions when it comes to living, because international students spend a certain years in this new culture, and then there's so much judgment, and then they decided to live. So there's a lot of different emotions, and everybody has a different emotions going through. So we talked about that. So that was some of the highlights of our article, the introductory article. And let me turn it over to other authors. So firstly, Dr. Dewey Andrenini will share about her article. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie, for the introduction. Good morning, everyone. And it is 2 a.m. in Brisbane, Australia. My name is Dewi Andriani, and I'm one of the contributors of the special edition in Journal of International Students, edited by Dr. Katie Koo and Dr. Charlie Mathies. When I saw a call for an abstract, I knew that I had to submit mine because I believe that my story would resonate with the theme of the special issue. So to my surprise, my abstract was accepted. So this presentation is based on that, that article. Now, the citation of my article is here. And can we move to the background? Okay. So the background, students who study outside their home countries have increased each year. According to UNESCO, approximately around 5.3 million students have made a journey to study outside their home countries. And interestingly, students from Indonesia are among the top 10 international students in Australian higher education. They are typically holding a non-resident visa status or student visa to come and study in Australia. So there is a catch. I feel that I'm part of the students from Indonesia, part of the global flows, but I'm not an international student. I'm classified as a domestic student because I legally and permanently live in Australia. And I believe that my experience was overlooked. And there is another complexity of the students who study outside their home country. I found that my experience as a female student from Indonesia intersects with that of international students. But my visa status sets me apart. So in other words, my presence in Australian higher education does not quite fit the mold of international students. We are the same, but different. We are different, but the same. So this is the reason why I wrote this article. I want to share what my academic journey was like and how it has changed, especially, or I focus on the way I wrote my research. So I know that I warn you that my story cannot be generalized. And of course, it is absolutely biased. Now, can we move please to the method? And a method or an alternative method. Now, you might be wondering how I shared my experience in research. So I did not follow the conventional quantitative and qualitative research method. In conventional research methods, we researchers are supposed to conduct systematical research using pre-established rules, rigid sampling procedures, triangulations, codification procedures, but instead I use autoethnography and disobeyed that standardized research procedures. And I was inspired. I'm not the only one who did that. I was inspired by the authors or researchers before me. For example, that Saint Pierre in 2018, 2019, and 2021, she called that post-qualitative inquiry. And also in 2021, she said experimentation and the creation of the new. And then in 2018, she said the things in the making instead of things already made, like methods is already provided to us. And then in 2005, Richardson and Saint Pierre said that writing as a method of inquiry. So writing in autoethnography is the finding. Writing is a process, and writing is a method. So the data was taken and sorted from writing and rewriting through a creative process. And for me, this wasn't easy because my writing does not come straight, neat straight away through a creative process. Especially, I wrote in English as my additional language. And I also, beside that, I also followed procedural ethic requirements by institutional review board. On top of that, I write with my hard lines. So another autoethnographer, McKinley, said that to write in the hard lines. And then I believe that the process is worth it. But in the end, my autoethnography is not just research output. It is my story. And it is a story that speaks to the experience of students who study overseas, whether they are international students or whether they are domestic students, and students, especially students who do research beyond the standard research method and embrace new ways of telling the academic and research experience. Now, can we move to the finding this time, please, Charlie? Finding other and pushing beyond the limits. So in this part, I will read the excerpts of the article. Can we move to the next one? So I found struggles, and also I found opportunities when I do this type of research. So first is encountering others from my excerpts of the article. Right after the confirmation milestone, I joined a feminist reading group called The Laughing Medusa, a name taken after Cixous's famous work, the philosopher from French. This reading group, which was organized by Liz, one of the research panel members, introduced many amazingly unique lenses such as feminism, post-colonialism, post-structuralism, post-qualitative paradigm with a different writing style. All the new perspectives were alien, especially to a research students like me, who has English as a second language. The works using those lenses were too challenging to understand, and I grappled with how such perspectives could fit into research, into my research. That's my struggle with that. And struggle number 2, confused and troubles. So I remember it is when I did my second milestone. I remember there were 5 of us in the cold and quiet room for my mid-candidate research milestone. I was sitting on the opposite side of a table, facing the panel and my advisors. I felt as though I was a plaintiff who would be found guilty of messing all this up, and I did not have anything to defend my wrongdoing. It was too late, and there was no way of turning back. I had to present something for this milestone. I shivered from the coldness of the room and from the discomfort. The panel member looked at me sharply, shook their heads and said, "This way is not working." I knew it. I whispered to myself. In that moment, I knew I was in trouble. So because I was trying to marry the old methods, research methods, with a new one. So I was confused and I was in trouble. Can we move to the opportunities this time? And the opportunities for doing this work is finding something new. Another excerpt with a thick handbook of autoethnography that Liz, the research panel member, and eventually my thesis advisor, lent to me as a start. I explored the unknown zone of autoethnography to prepare for my presentation in a conference. How different is it from ethnography? I found that autoethnography uses personal experience framed by socio-political experience, which means auto, and to describe and interpret orography, cultural texts, experiences, beliefs, and practices, or ethno. It is an alternative form of qualitative writing and an activity to form cultural analysis, said many authors. It also seeks to describe and analyze personal experience to gain an understanding of cultural experiences. It is a process, means the process of conducting research, and also it is a product because it is in the form of writing. That's an opportunity. And another opportunity is writing as my field of play with crystallization, not with triangulation. Thrillingly, I practiced playing and writing with words following Richardson's in 1997, the path in the field of play with crystallization. Instead of conforming to the homogenized voice of science, I learned to create stories based on my experiences, which intertwined and interacted with social through the process of writing that transforms what and how I become. This field of play gives me the freedom to simultaneously do both seriousness and playfulness, said Richardson. I refuse to triangulate the data, but instead I use crystallization that offers creative thinking to link with theory. As Barbosa Nifs et al. Argue, it also offers a framework to help achieve various angles. I keep coming back to Richardson, who reminds me, think about how crystals reflect, retract, change, and grow. Now we come to the concluding remarks. So embracing a new way of writing and research allows for free expressions and inclusion of diverse experiences. So this approach, the autoethnography, promotes social justice and invites you to share your stories through creativity and performance, leading to a deeper understanding of other way of doing research. And my article is here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for sharing your powerful stories and the study. Thank you. So our next speaker is Dr. Noor Pasil from Malaysia. Dr. Pasil, if you are ready.
Yes. All right. Can I start now? Can you hear me? Okay.
We all hear you.
Okay, that's good. Okay, a very good evening here, morning, afternoon, and evening to us. So my article for this special issue entitled "I am a Muslim and Asian woman in the United Kingdom, living uncomfortably in an uncomfortable situation." My name is Nur Hafiza Ahmad Fazil. I'm from University of Science Malaysia. but you can call me Hafiza. It's much easier. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so, okay, the introduction. Hi, everyone. I'm Hafiza. So, I'm a Malay. Malay is my ethnicity. I'm a Muslim woman and I live in Malaysia. I'm a Malaysian. So basically, I studied in the UK in October 2014 until March 2018. So it's already 2023, like 5 years already left UK. And I currently working in USM, University of Science Malaysia, as a senior lecturer. This is my 5th year working. Okay, so next, please. Okay, when I same like Dr. Dewi, like when I learned about this special issue, I think that, oh, maybe I can share about my story because it's really related on my experience as an insider researcher, as well as a Malaysian student living in the UK. So I can use my experience as well as my own research to write this special issue. So I did my PhD in sociology in one of the university in UK. And the title of my research is Friendship and Intimacy, Exploring Malaysian Students' Experiences of Living Temporarily Abroad. So my research focused on Malaysian students who live in the UK. Malaysia, if just want to share a little bit about Malaysia. Malaysia is multi-diverse country. We have Malay, Chinese, Indians, and other ethnicity in this country. And when I did my research, I asked all of this ethnicity. I didn't only focus on one ethnicity, so I asked all of them. They came from different religion, different cultural background, but all of them are Malaysian. So when I do my research, we talk about how their own experience, what are the challenges that they face, what are the discrimination, how they like feel the sense of belonging with the host student and with the other international student, with their co-national friends. So there are lots of stories that I got from my research. So when I write this research, I also like reflect my own personal experience and their the participants' experience, to understand more about how we as an international student, how we actually face the struggle, how we actually survive living in the foreign country. Okay, so next slide, please. So this article, I use autoethnography, but the focus is on evocative approach because I like recall my memories. I illustrate my own experiences as an insider researcher. I use my own experience and I complement it with my own research, and it offers accounts of my personal experience to complement the existing research that I conducted. So because when I try to recall back the memories, I recall my own experience, like I have been like attack, Islamophobia attack, and how my other participants and my friends as well, how they also face the same situation that I have experienced. Okay, next slide, please. So in this article, I share my story into subtopic. The first one is expressing identity, being a visible Muslim, because I am Muslim, I'm wearing a headscarf, how I express my own identity. And the second one is negotiating identity, how I try to negotiate my own identity as being an ethnic minority in the UK, in the Western country. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, in the UK, okay, I already mentioned here Lancaster University. I hope there's no one from Lancaster here. Okay, but actually Lancaster is a very small town, and most of them are white British, and most of them are elderly. they are really friendly. I feel safe when I live in Lancaster. But even though it's a majority white British location, but the way the local people in Lancaster accept us as international students who wear headscarf and wear a very bright colored clothes, they are okay with it and they are really friendly. But because Lancaster is very small town, to get a halal food is really hard, especially halal meat. So we need to go to another town by train. This is train station by train. So it took about 30 to 40 minutes to go to another town to get a halal meat. So when I went to the other town with my friends, my Muslim women, Malaysian Malay friends, we are a big attack with this one woman. We just walking and like laughing like ha 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 and just talking to each other, and then suddenly this woman came to us and said like, you killed my son and now you go shopping. I be like, what? I just want to go shopping. I don't kill anyone. But the good things about that is when this thing happened, there's other people, local and other Muslim women approach us and said, it's okay, calm down, it's okay, just ignore that person. You can make a report, you can go report, make a police report or anything. If you feel like you've been attacked, it's okay, you can seek for help. But because it's just a momentary attack, like it's just momentary, we just like, oh my god, what happened, what just happening. So we just let it go and we continue shopping. But I still remember the face, I still remember the hatred, I still remember how I feel that during that situation. Like, oh, after that situation, I tried to I feel like, oh, I don't want to go to that town again. I just feel like maybe I just stay in Lancaster and ask someone else to buy halal meat for me. So it's really challenging for a Muslim like me because we are wearing headscarf. And I think when I asked my participant about this, especially the male male students, they said that, oh, I did not encounter that kind of discrimination, but but they face challenges in terms of ethnic minority, not because they are a Muslim, because they are not a visible Muslim. So when we talk about how hijab and Islamophobia very related, we can see that this is a gender Islamophobia, because usually Muslim women are being attacked just because they are visible, because they're wearing headscarf. So there's one time when I was in another like big city, when we me and my friends taking bus at midnight, maybe because they are drunk or I'm not sure, but they call us kebab. Like, look at that kebab, because we are rap. I don't know. I was like, oh, kebab, okay. So like, and then they laugh, ha, 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 but we think like, oh, it's okay, they're drunk, so just ignore them. So usually people who are the victim of this Islamophobia or xenophobia, they think that, oh, just let it go, just ignore them, don't like feel you want to say anything about it, because you're a minority, you cannot say anything about it, you just keep it to yourself. Okay, all right, so the next slide is about negotiating identity. These are the pictures that I choose. Oh, I need to scroll my Instagram to choose these pictures. So basically, because we are Malaysian, we celebrate all of the festival. So the first picture on the top is when we celebrate Deepavali together. And then the right one is like Bruneian, because we really close with other Southeast Asian friends like Indonesian, Bruneian, and even Asian, Japanese, Korean. So we celebrate, we try to celebrate all the celebration together. And we also celebrate Ramadan in the prayer room. There's other international students as well, and Chinese New Year. So being an ethnic minority in the United Kingdom, we try to adapt. We try to adapt our culture that totally different from Western culture. And the most important thing for us, for me and my participants in my research, they said that co-national friends are really important because they need to recreate family and home abroad. So they really need in co-national friends and other international friends, especially from similar cultural background, similar religious belief, because they want to strengthen their identity as an Asian, as a Muslim, as an international student. So even in my research, I came up with this concept, familiarity as a family, because even though the friendship is just, they just form this new friendship abroad, but they think that they are their family, their own family in abroad. So this is how I myself and other Malaysian students that I have interviewed, they said that they need to recreate the family, recreate the bond. That's why this is how we as a Malaysian student in the UK try to survive, try to get sense of belonging, feel belong. This is how we create the sense of belonging in the UK, because we are far away from each other, like from our family, because most of when I did this research, when I do my PhD, I was single, and all of the participants also are single, so they don't have any family to support them to be there physically. So we need friends to support each other. That's how we try to negotiate our own identity when we live abroad. All right, the next slide, please. So when I write this article, I think that is really good if I can give some insight to all the readers, to all the audience, that it is important for us to provide training for staff for who will work closely with the international students, because I also encountered with staff that are not really understand the struggle of international students. They said that, like, I've been thrown a paper like, oh, your writing is rubbish, but I know that English is not our first language, so it's really hard to write, even to speak in English. So if we can train the staff to accept, to try to help international students to adapt, to study, I think it's really good. And because when I did my research, most of my participants said that they don't have opportunities to mingle with local students because they feel that they're not belong to each other. And when they do activities, local students did not join the activities. So they have lack of opportunities to interact with each other. So I think it's really good if we can promote cross-cultural activities and include all students from different cultural and religious background. And also one of other thing that when I encountered with the Islamophobia attack, I didn't know how I can get help. How can I, who can I go to talk about this thing? I just move on. So yeah, it's really hard as a, okay, all right. So the next slide, the last slide. Okay, so everyone has the right to practice their religion and the right not to be discriminated against or harassed because of their religion, gender, or perception about their nationality or ethnicity. I am lucky because I have two supervisors here who are really supportive. If they're not there, I don't know whether I can survive with my PhD or not. And also my friends in the UK. So I think that's all for today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pazil, for sharing your powerful stories and experiences. Thank you. So now let me have three authors of our last article of today to the podium. So Hyung-ok, Dr. Yoon, and Dr. Liu, whenever you're ready, we are ready. Thank you.
Yes, I will start. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us to hear our stories. So my name is Hyeon Yoon. I'm an assistant professor at Borsay University. I'm here with my two friends. Hyung-ok Kang, she's a PhD candidate at University of Georgia, and Sung-young Liu, she's assistant professor at American University. And we started this project in 2021 summer. At the time, we were all international doctoral students in the United States, and we were in the same field, early childhood education. So today we are going to share our research going beyond the unawakened body, art-based collaborative autoethnographic inquiry of Korean doctoral students in the United States. So our collective autoethnography process was inspired when we read two books, Minor Feelings and Decolonial Feminist Research, in virtual book club. So this virtual book club was initiating during the COVID-19 and Asian hate crime incidents to build a solidarity among Korean early childhood educators and scholars in the United States. And it was created through the Korean American Early Childhood Researchers Association, KCRA. So after this virtual book club, I'm on the same page, sorry. So after this virtual book club, we decided to meet once a week because we were all the Korean international doctoral students. So we decided to meet once a week to explore what it means to become Asian living in the United States. And while engaging in this dialogue and discussion, we shared our personal memories, narratives, and some written reflections. So during this time, we realized that we had both very similar and also unique experiences as Korean international doctoral students in different regions in the United States. Then we decided to use critical race theory and Asian creed and previous literature on international students in the Western countries to analyze how structures and systematic issues shape our experiences and connected our individual experiences to a larger context. Next page. So as our methodological approach, we utilize art-based collaborative autoethnography. By using autoethnography, we can collect, analyze, and interpret autobiographical stories while recalling our own experiences, also the stories of others. So through collaborative autoethnography, we can also use multiple perspectives to explore our lived experiences within the larger society. We also believe that the arts are a useful research tool to show how social inequity, especially racism, operate through our bodies, feelings, and daily experiences. And we enhance our collaborative autoethnography with this creative method, including collage and poetry, to make our stories more visible. So now we are going to share our project, include those collages and poems.
In our collective autoethnographic study, we deeply reflected on our swallowed shameful feelings concerning the racism we experienced. And in this project, we intentionally resisted identifying ourselves as minoritized bodies suffering from racial discriminations. Instead, we tried to go beyond the static mythical images of Asians as model minorities or perpetual foreigners. This is a collage we Yes. This is a collage we created together to express our shared experiences of feeling ashamed for being ignorant about racism while finding ourselves in the minority position in the United States. Among different feelings and stories concerning the racism we experienced, I would like to note that our collage mirrors the model minority myth, an image of Asian immigrants achieving the American dreams and becoming honorary white. And this model minority stereotype suggests that Asian Americans are universally successful and do not face racial challenges, which is false mythical beliefs. In this collage, we reflected on the dominant societal discourse surrounding us, often positioning Asian in the United States not as a minority or even treated the same as privileged white groups. As a result, we Asians are often invisible in the racial discourse because Asians are regarded as an ethnic and racial group that does not experience discrimination. And this collage represents our feeling ashamed of being silenced because we are trapped in the mythical racialized discourse. And as a result, our silence contributes to racism. Next slide, please. Thank you. We also collaboratively composed 2 poems to reflect on our experiences as international students in the United States. Both poems portray our shameful memories of involuntarily or voluntarily complying with the perpetual foreigner myth, which views Asians as not legitimate agents and devalues us as powerless and unqualified to speak out against racism. We found that our sense of foreignness positioned us as outsiders whose voices were not heard and who had difficulty negotiating standards or given institutional roles. That became the rationale to justify our reluctance to work for social justice, saying, I'm not an American citizen, I'm just a foreigner, an alien resident. Next, please. Thank you. And you can find the full poems in our paper, but for today, we would like to share one of the poems titled Belittling I. This poem illustrates our shameful memories when it comes to devaluing ourselves as vulnerable and powerless images. As international students, we struggle to learn the appropriate ways to become a professional here in the United States. And due to the language and cultural differences, we were viewed as a learner instead of expert. So in this poem, we intentionally chose to use a lowercase I because speaking English made us feel tiny and incapable. Now we'll read the poem Belittling I.
An international doctoral student in the United States, I will and need to prove my professionalism.
In the course evaluation, one student wrote, English is her second language, makes for a tough class, as she often mispronounces words and cannot say other words.
Did my mother tongue make things difficult for you? Swallow, swallow, swallow my pain, sorrow, shame on my tongue, my Korean tongue, my English tongue, my knowledge, my experiences, my feelings. My broken English made me look non-professional. My broken English made me into an image of students who is still learning. I am a doctoral student who wished to stay in academia. I tried to prove my intellectual knowledge and professionalism. I need to show they are not fake. I practice writing professional English, but then I just became an elementary kid from a kindergartner. I am a doctoral student who always need editors, English native speakers. Miss so-and-so, then I willingly give up my learning from my motherland, how to teach, how to learn, how to be an expert. I should adapt as quickly as I can what others normally do in this space. But what is normal?
Use this strategy when you provide feedback to students. Acknowledge an individual's insight instead of summarizing the contents. Use academic English without any grammatical errors.
Erasing all my figures rooted in the motherland. No more I exist before I left my home. Only I am who eager to be a normal American. I was a doctoral student who wished to stay in academia. I tried to prove my intellectual knowledge and professionalism. I need to show they were not fake, but I also need to remember they are not fake.
I want to be an be an active agent who is developing scholar with an accent, who brings diversity and inclusion in the institution, who brings a unique voice and perspective in academia.
Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed listening to our poem and resonate at some point. Our professional competences were often overlooked due to our language barriers. As our language was layered with our racial identity, we inevitably positioned ourselves as outsiders who were ignorant of dominant US cultural norms. However, as shown in this poem, we tried to reposition ourselves through our collaborative work as experts who can bring dynamics of multiple cultural and linguistic diversities in educational contexts.
Next, we would like to share how this project impacts us and what changes we have made after this project, particularly how we reposition ourselves through our collaborative work as experts who can bring dynamics of multiple cultural and linguistic diversities in educational context. So there are two major changes that we would like to share with. The first one is the therapeutic process. So we collaboratively interrogated and reflected on our awareness of racism and its destructive impact on our self-image. So in this collaborative and collective reflexive process, we work together, building on each other's stories, gaining insights from group sharing and providing various levels of support. So uncovering those buried emotions represented in the above collaborative autoethnographic artworks actually shows a way to productively use the shameful feelings through reflexive interrogations. This process was actually very therapeutic because our artwork helped us to examine those unspeakable racial feelings that we do not really talk in our everyday life, and we tend to swallow and try to forget it. And next page, please. And in addition, our art-based collaborative reflexive work allows us to critically reflect how we are thinking about ourselves, as it challenged us to question taken for granted norms and thus encourage us to reconfigure our self-image and positionality. We realized that we are using those hegemonic racial devices, the model minority and perpetual foreigner, and we realized that those racial devices actually operate silently in our everyday life, and we unknowingly contribute to both disrupting and reinforcing whiteness. And that reflection, the critical reflection, allows us to continually redefine who we are and how we can bring it into our academic journey. So, for instance, Hyung-Oh Kang is currently a representative of graduate students at Korean American Educational Research Association, and she really works hard to empower Korean graduate students' Korean American graduate students' voices in academia. And Seon and I are currently working on a collaborative autoethnography work focusing on Asian transnational faculty's experience, particularly working in a predominantly white institutions. And we're trying to, we believe that our academic journey will contribute to creating counter narratives to whiteness and broadly racism in the higher education institutions. So that's all of our work that we would like to share. Thank you very much for your time for listening to our story, and I would like we hope that you find our work here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your great presentation. You are very artistic scholars, wonderful creation of multiple poems here. So speakers, thank you so much for sharing your great studies and for sharing your powerful stories of lived experiences as international student. Unfortunately, we may not have a time for discussion. It's already 1:01. So we will close our webinar, but before you go, thank you so much for taking the time today to come and join this conversation. And I appreciate Angela and ASHE office for supporting this webinar. Many thanks to all the authors and speakers of today it has been great privilege and pleasure to work with you as an editor, and it's been great experience to moderate this session with my colleague Tali. Thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day and weekend. Thank you so much for everyone for coming. Thank you.